Hi, everyone. So today I am going to be talking about the updates in US immigration law because there's been some updates and what that actually means for cases moving forward. And a lot of the changes are going to be not so great news, right? It's going to be more scrutiny, more of all the things that we do not want when it comes to immigration enforcement and, of course, USCIS in general. So, the first thing that we are going to talk about, and please let me know if you can hear me. I've had sound issues in the past, but I believe I fixed them all for this stream. So please feel free to say hi in the comments and let me know if you can hear me. If you are new here, hi, I am Lilian Chukurama, US-based immigration lawyer, and I help my clients get green cards and citizenships using the US immigration law system. And yes, that immigration law system is changing and we all can see it. So before this administration, I'll be like, oh, things are changing, but it's not as visible as it is with this administration. So we can clearly see that things are changing. If you have questions, please go ahead and put it in the comments. And Joanna, thank you so much for letting me know that you can hear me. But yes, ask me questions in the comments. I will talk about the updates, but part of me doing these live streams is so that you can ask me questions, okay? I know some of you don't have the time to schedule a consultation with me. You don't have the energy to deal with that, but you may have a one-off question that's not really legal advice, because I can't give you legal advice on a live stream, but I can give you like general information about the topic. All right. So feel free to ask me questions and let's jump right into it. So the first thing is about there's a new executive order that basically allows the Department of Homeland Security to share information with other departments, including the Department of Justice. So basically sharing information back and forth about criminal history, records, and information. So typically, USCIS already has access. Department of Homeland Security can do an FBI background check on most applicants, right? They have the highest level of information on applicants. With this new executive order, it's just strengthening that relationship with the Department of Justice, right? It's just a little step higher, but it's not really as big of a shift. What is a bigger shift is that now the US government is going to be sharing those same information with other countries that have a visa waiver program, right? So if the country has a visa waiver program and they're in some form of reciprocity relationship with the US government can share that criminal background information with those countries. They say they're going to put safeguards in place and all these other stuff. We do not know what that actually looks like because all we get is the general announcements that they make. So hopefully it's not as bad as as I feel that it is. But again, governments have been sharing information forever, but now this is more of an immigration sharing information and not national security sharing information. So that's why I just want to bring that up to you. So if you do have any charges, you're from a visa waiver country and you do have any charges in those countries, one, when you're filing an immigration application, you're supposed to disclose those charges. But now, with the sharing of the data itself, the US government, as always, has that information now. So it's really important that you not just assume that just because something happened outside of the US, that the US government will not know about it. Okay. Especially if you're from a country that shares information with the US. All right. So the next rule that came out is a new rule that's going to affect people that are in immigration court proceedings and will maybe their case got denied and now they have to file an appeal. That appeal process is going to look a whole lot different once this rule becomes final. Okay. Basically, they want to streamline the appeal process. So typically, how an immigration court appeal happens, you go to immigration court, you plead your case, you have a final hearing, an individual hearing, you present your evidence, the judge makes a decision. If that decision is not in your favor, you are able to appeal the decision and have the Board of Immigration Appeals review your appeal eventually, right? Eventually review your appeal and either say that the judge made a mistake or that the judge was correct in their ruling, right? This whole appeal process, I have a case from 2020 that I'm still waiting on the BIA to make a decision on. From 2020. So it does take a whole lot of time for the appeal process to go through. Unless you are detained, your appeal is going to go years. With the streamlined process, that appeal is going to take like 15 days. So with the streamlined process, it will look like your case is denied by the immigration judge. You file a notice of appeal. They basically pre-screen your appeal to determine if it should even go in front of the Board of Immigration Appeals. And if they look at it and pre-screen it out, that's it. Your immigration court process is over. Your appeal is denied. And that can happen within 15 days of you filing that appeal. And then your next choice after that is to appeal to the U.S. District Court in your district. So your chance, so typically for us to do an appeal in my office, we are writing a brief, we are presenting legal arguments and all these things as part of that appeal. And in some situations, you can request a hearing, but most of the time, they're not going to have you come in for a hearing. What's going to happen now is you do all of that, but if the person that pre-screens it out, they may not even fully read or understand your brief, right? But the point here is you have a very short amount of time to do all the things that you were able to do before. So they are trying to get you from case denied to deported in the shortest amount of time. So that's why they're making these new rules when it comes to appeal. And that's also why I am recommending to any of my former clients or my current clients, if they get put in deportation proceedings, I am recommending that they get a deportation attorney, right? Immigration defense attorney, because it is not like before the rules were hard, but with guidance, you can get through it. The rules right now are hard, but also hard for us attorneys. So I can only imagine someone trying to go through the immigration court process without an attorney. I cannot even think about that right now because it is insane the amount of work you have to do to appeal a case, and then you're not even getting the board to review and take the time to actually go through your case. And that's just not fair for someone that has went through the immigration court process. It's insane. All right. Next update is that temporary protected status, again, most countries that have temporary protected status, it is going to end. The US government is going to be announcing, especially when they're going to try not to end it early, but they will end it. They just won't renew it, right? They just won't renew TPS for any countries, as you know, that's what it's looking like. So, in one of our immigration lawyer forums, someone asked with the the airstrike in Iran, would the US government be issuing TPS for Iranian citizens in the US? And honestly, my answer is no. I don't see the Trump administration actually issuing TPS for Iranian citizens, even though there was an airstrike and now there's, you know, chaos going on there. I don't see that happening. And then someone said something that really just struck me is that what they see happening instead is that the the US government may now round up Iranian citizens and accuse them of being part of a terrorist country and being terrorists, and just use that as an excuse to round up Iranian citizens. Again, this is all just people talking, okay? But there is a history of it happening in the past, so take that. But I don't see TPS happening for Iranian citizens because the Trump administration is making it a point to end TPS. Okay. If you are a VAWA self petitioner, or you entered on the Cuban or Haitian paroles or anything like that, what the Department of Justice is basically telling HUD, the Housing and Urban Development that handles housing assistance and things like that, to exclude VAWA self-petitioners and Cuban or Haitian entrants from certain housing assistance. So it is going to limit what they can qualify for. That is a great question, Jeff. One second. So, if you are a VAWA self petitioner, or you're Cuban or Haitian and you have housing assistance, you may want to just clarify that with your HUD office to make sure that you are still qualified under this new rule, and figure out what you can do next. You don't want to be, you want to be proactive with this rule because it affects where you live. So you want to be very proactive with this. Jeff is asking, are you saying, please clarify, are all immigration lawyers same as deportation lawyers? Great question. No. No. So there are different parts of immigration law. So you can have an immigration lawyer that does deportation proceedings, that does business immigration, that does all the different parts of immigration law. And then you can have an immigration lawyer that only does family-based petitions, self-petitions, things, citizenship, VAWA, things like that. That is very different from deportation proceedings. Those lawyers that do deportation also go to immigration court process with you. They are the ones going to court on a daily, weekly basis with their clients and basically fighting for those clients to not be deported. Okay. So there's different parts. I put it like in criminal law, for example, there's lawyers that only do DUI cases, whereas there's lawyers that do federal criminal charges and some that only do state criminal charges. And then there's lawyers that will never touch a murder case or a rape case because that's just not what they want to do. So that same thing applies in immigration law because it is very broad. Okay. And sometimes we use the term immigration lawyer, but depending on the situation, I like to be specific. Because if someone calls me and they're looking for, they're in immigration court proceedings, or they just received a notice to appear for immigration court, I'm going to refer them to my to my list of immigration defense attorneys, the lawyers that have said, this is what I want to do with my practice is immigration defense. So I do family-based immigration. I work with people trying to get a green card for their family members, citizenship for their family members. I work on VAWA cases, waivers, citizenship, a whole lot of things except the deportation part of immigration law. So that's a amazing question, because we do use that immigration lawyer as just like a blanket, but I like to be specific because I know that not every single immigration lawyer does all the things. Just like most immigration lawyers do not do business or employment immigration. So if you go to a deportation immigration lawyer, they may not know anything about an H-1B visa. They may not know anything about getting a green card through the perm process. They may not know any of that. So depending on what you're looking for to do with your immigration journey is going to really depend on the lawyer you get. Okay, so you want to really pay attention to that. So great question. All right. The next thing that I want to cover, as far as updates, is that unfortunately, we are going to see restrictions on employment authorization for asylum applicants. Okay, if you are applying for asylum, we are going to see if this rule passes. Again, a lot of these are proposed rules, and most of the time, the proposed rules end up being the final rules. So we have to talk about them. So basically, the proposed rule will do a few things. Number one is to pause the acceptance of initial asylum based work permits. So if you're applying for a work permit based on asylum, they're basically going to pause accepting that unless it. So it's just, that's going to be a new thing. They usually, when it comes to asylum, that's one that they don't usually mess with, but this administration has really been trying to find the nice way of putting it, but they have really went out of their way to try and get people to not apply for asylum. Right now, because this rule is only proposed, right now, if you apply for asylum, you have to wait 180 days before USCIS can approve your asylum application. Now, with this new rule, they're saying you have to wait um, up to 365 days from the date you apply for asylum for USCIS to be able to approve your case. So this is going to cause so much harm to people, because if you come to the US, if you're coming to the US to apply for asylum, is because wherever you're coming from is literally threatening your life. That's the whole point of asylum, right? Asylum is not just something you apply for because you're in the US. Like, you are afraid for your life. So you come to the US, you're expected to file your asylum application within 1 year of being in the US. And then you can't apply for a work permit. You can't work without a work permit. And you can't apply for a work permit for another year of being in the US. This is going to affect a lot of people and discourage people from even bothering with filing for asylum in the US. All right. Jeff, is it a good time for naturalized citizens to travel abroad? I So when it comes to naturalized citizen, I'm a naturalized citizen. And I don't think there's nothing that would make me not travel right now, right? Again, this is me personally. If you are afraid to travel, there's no new rules, there's no new laws, there's no new anything that would make a naturalized citizen not be able to return to the US. Again, you are a US citizen. Okay. The only way for a US citizen, a naturalized US citizen to no longer be a US citizen is through the denaturalization process. And that process takes place in the US federal court. So as a US citizen, you can travel in and out of the US. If the US government wants to take away your citizenship, they have to go through the denaturalization process. And that process requires them to have a reason for trying to take away your citizenship. They can't just take away your citizenship. And that's one of the things I always want people to know when it comes to the denaturalization, because it was a huge thing. I think I may do an updated video on where we're at right now with denaturalization, because people, it was a huge thing when this administration went in, but nothing has really changed with the actual law. They may be trying to get more people denaturalized. However, that does not mean that they are being successful with it or that it is a widespread thing. Okay. All right. Okay. So, question: if you want to be a citizen and your husband is not living together, okay, and you and your husband are not living together, can you apply for citizenship? It depends. This question really depends, right? If you are applying based on being married to a US citizen for 3 years, no, you cannot apply yet. You can apply under the 5-year one, but I will always caution people on this, because I always want to just bring your attention to what could raise red flags for your case, right? I don't know you, I don't know your situation, but something that can raise a red flag is if you received your green card through marriage and then you're applying for citizenship and you're no longer married to the person, the question would come up about that spouse. So, regardless, if you got your green card through that marriage, you can technically apply for citizenship after 5 years if you two are no longer in a marital relationship. Because there's a difference between being married and being in a marital relationship. Okay. USCIS wants you to prove that you're still in a marital relationship if you want to file that citizenship application within 3 years. But if you're filing it within 5 years, you don't have to file based on that marriage. But if you got your green card through that marriage, be ready to get questions about the marriage. Okay. I have had people come to me after their citizenship interview, and now USCIS is trying to take away their green card because they went to the interview and they were asked basic questions about that relationship and they couldn't answer it, which led USCIS to suspect that that marriage was not real, and now reopening their green card and trying to take it away. So you really need to look at your whole situation before you apply for citizenship under this administration, because they will dig into all your history and ask you questions about all of that before they will approve that citizenship. And Betty, I don't know your background, but based on your name, you may be Nigerian. So I will also let you know that there is a travel ban that Nigeria is under, and USCIS is not scheduling interviews for nationalization for Nigerians. I actually know someone that had an interview scheduled and then they canceled the interview because of the travel ban. So just keep that in mind as well, that yes, you can apply, but you may end up not getting to an interview anytime soon. Liberian, you should be fine. You're not affected by the USCIS pause. So thanks for clarifying. All right. Do consular offices use US citizen petitioner income / public charge to approve a minor child green card? It depends. If the minor child is the biological child of the petitioner, right? That's I have to start there. If the minor child is the biological child of the petitioner, then when they come into the US, they will automatically become US citizens. And therefore, the consular, the National Visa Center is not going to require income because the child will automatically become a US citizen. So that's where that really comes in. It's not just the USCI, it's not just the embassy. If it's a stepchild, if it's a stepchild, then yes, they will need the income to make sure you can overcome the public charge and all of that. But if it is your biological child and you are already a US citizen, once the child comes to the US with their green card and they're living with you, that's another point. They have to live with you. But once they're living with you, they automatically become US citizens. And therefore, the public charge rule will not apply the second they enter the US. So the embassy is not going to require income verification and all of that, or an affidavit of support, because they know that child will become a US citizen immediately. So what we typically do in my office when that's the case is we file an I-864W instead of an I-864. So it's an affidavit of support, but it's basically a waiver saying this child is going to immediately become a US citizen. You don't need to look at my finances. And then you go ahead and upload that instead of the regular affidavit of support with the tax returns and all of that. Yeah. The rules are, like I said, the rules are just a little different if it's a stepchild versus your biological child or your adopted child. Yeah. Jeff, thank you so much. I do, when I get these questions, I do love what I do. I love what I do, and I try to, I make sure I stay up to date on all the changes and all the things that are going on, because that's what my clients hire me for. That's why you're here. That's why you're asking me questions, is because this is what I do, and you expect me to be up to date on all these changes and be able to answer your questions as well. So honestly, that's what these lives are all about, is making sure that I'm answering your questions and getting you information, because that's really what it's all about. So yeah, Joanna, it doesn't really exist anymore. Like it doesn't really exist, but I have a copy in my office, so sometimes we just fill it out and upload it just to draw their attention to it. Honestly, that's the only reason, right? That's the only reason. It's not required anymore, but I still go through that process just so we have documentation that the whoever is reviewing that file can look at and be like, oh, okay, we don't need to think too much about this. But you're right, it's not required anymore. It's just a little quirk that I like to still do just to be on the safest of all safe sides, because you know the MVC officers try their best. They try their best, but sometimes they do come back and they ask you for things that are not necessary for your case. So we always like to just give them more than they need, especially when it just makes our lives easier. All right. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. If you like these lives, please do like it so that other people can see and join or watch the replay. And as always, if you have questions, put them in the comments. Even if you're watching this on a replay, even if you're watching a different video on my channel and you have a question, put your questions there. I do go back and answer your questions. And sometimes, depending on how good the question is, I will do a whole video responding to it. So please, please, please go ahead and ask me questions. And then I also do a Q&A. I do a Q&A on every single live, but I also do like a dedicated Q&A video, Q&A live as well. So please feel free to join me. I've been doing these on Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I think this is a good time. I used to do these on Fridays, but I think Sundays has just been a lifesaver because of all the things I have going on and with work and life. This is just a good time for me, and I'm glad that it's working out for you all to be able to join me as well. And if you would like to schedule a private consultation with me, you can do that by going to my website, lilylegal.com/contact us. This is a private time between you and I, where we talk about your situation, your case, what steps you need to take, what you could qualify for, and all of that. I do have a new service that I am providing now. Actually, I think this is the first time I'm even talking about it on a video, but we do have a new service where, so typically I do full service, meaning I handle your case from beginning to end, but starting this month, it's the first. Perfect timing. Starting this month, we're going to be offering limited scope representation, which basically means if what you need from me is to review your forms and make sure that your packet is ready for filing, we do that. So I would review your forms, your documents, and tell you, hey, this document doesn't look like it's complete. This form is not complete. On this line, you did not put the right information. Or, hey, by the way, you're missing some required documents here, or you're missing some required forms. So that's going to be our expert packet audit, where I would basically get your packet and review it and give you feedback and just, make sure you are feeling comfortable and confident filing your application. I'm also offering a mock interview. So if you have a USCIS interview coming up and you want me to act as your officer and basically ask you questions, like a USCIS officer, you can also get in touch with me and we'll be able to schedule that as well. So those are new services that we're offering. So, because not everyone, one thing that I know about myself is there's certain types of things that I feel comfortable doing, but sometimes I need a little extra help. So if you are in that situation where you just need help, you're not looking for someone to do your whole case for you, to, follow the case from beginning to end, I am here for you. So that's why we're offering the new service. It's limited scope. You get to tell me what you need, and we figure out if we can help you do that. So yeah, if you want to find out more or figure out if it's going to work for you in your situation, please go ahead and go to my website, lilylegal.com/contact us, and schedule a consultation. We'll talk and see what the best option for you. Another reason that I'm offering this service is because it's significantly lower cost than a full service with me. Okay. The economy is not great. If no one else has noticed, I have. So I really want to make sure I'm serving my clients, the people that need help. I want to make sure that I'm serving you in the way that you can actually afford and that makes sense for your life. So that's why I have been, I've been offering this service, and I'm so glad People, if you're interested, feel free to reach out. Do we have to come to the office in person or virtual for all available services? Everything is virtual. Like all the services are virtual. The packet audit, I have a portal that you can upload your documents to. It's a secure portal. You don't have to print out your documents. You don't have to bring it to my office. You don't have to come in person and take time out of your day. You don't have to do any of that. All these services are virtual, and I do it for people all over the country. So it doesn't matter where you live because it's virtual. You can literally schedule that consultation. We speak, figure out what you need to provide, and then we go ahead and schedule that audit, schedule the mock interview, whatever it is that you're looking for. We're able to then figure out the best way to get that service to you. But yes, this is 100% virtual service that we're offering. Top shots. Thank you so much. Again, my my goal and my whole thing with this is to make sure that I am providing you guys information, and whether you choose, this is one thing that I always tell people, whether you choose to work with me or not, I am always going to answer your question and give you information. That's not going to change. When do USCIS and Consular start approving cases? It depends your country. They're currently approving cases for people that are not on the travel ban list or the 75 country pause. So if you are on one of those, there's no, excuse me. If you are on the travel ban list or the 75 country visa pause, there's no timeline. Both of those are basically put in indefinitely, and until something changes, they're not, we don't know. And that's one thing I will always do is if I don't know, I don't know. We don't know when the travel bans are going to be lifted. We don't know when the 75 country pause is going to be lifted. What we do know is if you are on that 75 country pause, your case is going to get an interview, right? If you go through the consular process, you will get an interview at the embassy. It's just once you finish your interview and you passed everything and they want to approve your visa, they just can't, right? So it's a good thing and a bad thing, right? At least you know that once that 75 country pause ends, they're issuing you a visa to the US. It's just they can't issue it at that moment. So it really just depends on what country you're from. That's going to determine whether you're going to get your visa approved or not. But, you know, I am, for those that don't know, I am originally from Nigeria. So I always use Nigeria as an example because you can't get mad at me for using Nigeria as an example if that's where I'm from. But Nigeria is on the partial travel ban list, and it's also on the 75 country ban. Why it's on both lists does not make sense, because if it's on the partial travel ban, it already means that the consulate is not able to approve an immigrant visa anyway, but they're also on that list. So to my fellow Nigerians, you're just not going to get a visa anytime soon. As far as an immigrant visa, you can still get like a P visa or a H-1B visa, and those other types of visas. You cannot get a student visa, a visiting visa, or anything like that, but there's still visas available to people on the partial travel ban list, just not an immigrant visa to the US. All right. So If you do not have any other questions for me, oh, before I go, there's like 9 or 10 of you here. Please hit the like button if you have not already done so already. Okay, just hit the like. But anyway, I am I am going to call it a night. Thank you all so much for joining me. I will see you next week on Sunday, and we're going to talk some more immigration things. Hopefully nothing too crazy happens between now and then, right? We like a slow immigration week with this administration. We like a slow immigration week. So hopefully we continue, hopefully we have a slow immigration week and there's not too much going on. Oh, great question. As a Nigerian, can I file for a minor child now, or that too is banned? So can you file it? Yes, you can file any applications right now. It's just the approval. There's a pause on the approval, but can you file the application? Absolutely, you can file it. Should you file the application? Is usually the other question. And in my opinion, yes, you should file it too. Because yes, USCIS is not allowed to approve cases for Nigerians right now, but that doesn't mean they won't process the application. Okay. Remember, USCIS typically does first in, first out. So when you file your application, you're going to be in line for it to get to an officer eventually. But if you don't file it, you're just going to be waiting. And there is going to be a backlog that's caused by this pause. Okay. There's going to be a backlog. So you want to kind of get yourself in line now, not whenever that ban is lifted. You want to do that now, because I still have people that are regretting waiting during COVID that they didn't get themselves in line because they weren't sure what's going on with the embassies and USCIS and all of that. Now they're regretting it. Don't be that person. Go ahead and file your applications if you qualify for it, because again, you want to get yourself in a place where you're just in line for this ban to be lifted, for USCIS to now get to your case and be able to approve it. Can I file, sorry, can I file as a green card holder for my child that is over 23? Yes, if they are not married, right? So green card holders can file for their children, regardless of age, as long as they don't get married. As long as that child does not get married, a green card holder can file for them. Once you file for them, right, you also need to remind them that they cannot get married until you become a US citizen. That's the other part that people miss, right? Green card holder can file for children as long as that child does not get married. If you start the filing process and they get married before you become a US citizen, that application is canceled. So let's say you've been waiting 5 years for that application to be approved, for a visa to be available, and then on the 6th year, before that visa is available, that child decides to get married and you are not yet a US citizen, those 6 years of waiting go out the window. Now they have to wait for you to become a US citizen before you can actually file for them again, and then start the waiting process all over again. Okay? But here's the other, if you become a US citizen and then they get married, their application just gets moved from, unmarried child of a permanent resident to the married child of a US citizen. And those years of waiting are not wasted. All right. So how long can it be to file? I'm trying to make sure I understand the question. You can file the application at any point. So once you're a permanent resident, you can file for your children. How long does it take for it to get to the point where they are going to have a visa interview? Right now you're looking at 7 to 8 years, like conservatively 7 to 8 years, for a visa to be available to them, and for them to start the National Visa Center process and get in line for an interview. You're looking at 7 to 8 years. So that's why I say, like, if you have children and the second you become a US citizen or a permanent resident, file for them because it's going to take time. So you might as well file it and just, like, file it and forget it. File it and forget it. And one thing that I also tell some parents, because their children can be, impatient when they know that there's an application pending and they're like, why is it taking so long? One, you don't have to tell them that you filed for them. My US citizens are the ones that I tell this to, not permanent residents, because again, permanent residents, you need to tell them not to get married. But for US citizens, I tell them sometimes, like, maybe don't tell them that you're filing for them. If you have all the documentation to file the application, maybe don't tell them so that they're not bugging you and asking you if, and asking you when the case is going to be ready. All right. That's just one thing that I sometimes recommend. If you have impatient family members, it may be in your best interest to um, file for them, but maybe not tell them that you're filing for them. Or send them to my visa bulletin videos so they know how long it's going to take. So you don't have to keep telling them, like, no, it's going to take up to 8 years, right? Send them to my visa bulletin videos so they know how long it's supposed to take. All right. So thank you guys so much for joining me. If you have any other questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. And if you want that private consultation with me, whether you want to talk about a full representation or you just need help with certain parts, with a review, with a mock interview, with just us preparing your packet for you, feel free to schedule that consultation. Let's talk and see how I can best assist you. And remember, as the as I said before, it is a virtual service, so you don't have to be in my state in order to take advantage of any of the services that I provide. And how much to file, it depends. Top Shot says 8 years is trifling. What if is elder? It doesn't matter. So if you're a US citizen or a permanent resident, if you're 70 years old and you're filing for your children, it's the same waiting time as if you are 30 years old and you're filing for your children. It's like there's not a lot of there's no elderly shortcut cut when it comes to the visa bulletin and the visa waiting time. But yeah, 8 years is trifling. Do you know what's really trifling though? 8 years is trifling. But if you are a US citizen and you are filing for your siblings or you are filing for your married children, you are looking at 15. I think last time I looked, it was more like 18 years. So it's, yeah, 8 years is trifling, but the 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 siblings and the married children takes forever. But I always tell people, the day you become a US citizen, the day you get that permanent residency, if you know you want your children to join you in the US, go ahead and file that application immediately. You wouldn't even know when you already been here for 10, 20 years and you still haven't started that process. I have people come to me and they're like, oh, I've had my green card, I've had my citizenship for 15 years. I just never got around to it. So now I won't really want to file. It's like, oh, if you only filed when you got it, you would be at the tail end of it. So do not wait. Okay. If you know for sure that you want to file for that child to come to the US, start the process as soon as you qualify, because the timing is everything. Like I have been, oof, I don't even know how long I've been a US citizen. So if I had people that I needed to file for, they probably would be here already. Okay. So it's really, really important that you don't wait because there's such a long wait time. Right? Especially the older your kids are, if they're married, if you're filing for siblings. Like I have clients that we just put in applications for their siblings knowing that it's going to take like 15 years for it to get there. But they know that once it gets there, their siblings are probably going to get married, they're going to have children. And now, once you wait that 15 years or more for a visa to be available, they go to their interview. Now they can come with their spouse that they didn't have when you filed. Right now, they can come with their children that they didn't have when you filed. So, it's really just all it does all come full circle where yes, the wait is long, but the benefit that you get at the end is really worth it. um yes, Top Shot, I'm glad I have my US passport too. i don't use I don't use it as much as I should, but I'm glad I have it. Are you on TikTok? I sort of. I will say yes, but not as much as I am on YouTube. Okay. But I am there, just not as much as I am on YouTube. So if you have questions, like I said, put them in the comments, and I will see you next week, Sunday, for more immigration funness. Hopefully, nothing too crazy happens. If something crazy happens before Sunday, I may do a live to talk about the crazy, but but other than that, that's what we that's where we're gonna see you next. So see you all on next week Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tell your friends to come join too, because they have immigration questions too. All right. Bye everyone. And Top Shots, you are very correct. Very much taken.